2, 3, 4. Just getting all prepped up here. Let's set things going. All right. Lesieli Atiaki, hey. I guess you guys are in California now. Did I get that right? Hello, Ivona. I was planning to call today, but I didn't quite get to it. Elaine Tat, hello. Good evening and welcome. So it's 18th of February. It's a Saturday night here in Las Vegas, Pacific Standard Time, USA. I just did a little astrodoodle. I don't normally come on a Saturday evening, but I felt compelled to do so, so I'm here. I was just working on some apple cinnamon herbal tea to keep me refreshed. And I had to comment a little bit on the planets. Let's have a look here. Give me a second. Okay. All right. So, I hope you're all doing well. The channel is now released from the warnings and the strikes and the lockups. I was shut down for about 10 days. Again, it seems I get into a lot of trouble with the algorithms and the community guidelines, and it's become a long, kind of tedious, boring history with this channel now. But anyway, I'm here. The gates were opened up again. I still have to live with the strike for another 2.5 months, almost 3 months, and it's like starting all over again. So I'm super paranoid about doing anything at all here, because you know how I get into trouble with my rants. Anyway, just wanted to point out a few things. First of all, let me say hello while we're here. Give me a second. Hold on. I'm just doing some... I'm running about 5 different softwares simultaneously to do this as usual, but you know, you would think I'd be used to it, but it can be tricky. Anyway, so if anyone's here at all, it's kind of a miracle, because the notifications really hardly ever go out anymore for the channel. That's just how the algorithm is now. And they can tune the algorithm to whoever they want, however they want. Anyway, I just wanted to point out some very interesting things for February and for March, in case you hadn't noticed or felt it already. Let me say hello over here. Oh, is that better? Oh man, don't tell me I was just doing all this talking without... Let me just check. I just need to check on the stage where I do the work. Okay, hold on. Yeah, we're good over here. Sorry, I must have... Excuse me. It's been a very bumpy time recently. That's just personal. I'm just sharing personal things. It's been very bumpy. And of course, as usual, I can blame the planets. If I go into my personal astrology and then I look at all the transits, like I take my own astrodoodles and I put them up against my own personal, astro identity. And I can pinpoint exactly where the trouble spots are. And right now it's kind of like a very, very, very slow motion train wreck. Let's put it that way. And I'm living through it. I don't know if any of you have ever lived through some very, very bad car crashes and come out alive. I have. I'm actually still alive, even though I've had some absolutely, let's say, death-defying car crashes. And you do go through these really bizarre, like psycho-spiritual, emotional events, and it's well displayed in movies. It's common understanding in the spiritual world, like how time compresses. It's very common in states of trauma or in the military, where soldiers and enemies and defendants are going at it, and they endure some kind of traumatic event. Time seems to compress, and things start to move very, very, very slowly. Okay. Path Traveler has gone through a windshield before. That is a badge of honor. Go Path Traveler. Wow, that's spectacular. That is something that you can brag about. Truly something to brag about. Anyway, I was trying to describe the feeling of slow motion car crash and how you kind of live through that on an ongoing basis. Now, of course, it's different for everybody. Now, the transits are the same for everybody, but how the transits affect you, that's different for everybody. I'm going to go over that in a little bit. Let me go to the charts for a second. By the way, hello and welcome. I wanted to talk a little bit about New Zealand. Apparently I was going blah, 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 but nobody could hear anything. Anyway, over here, this is some beautiful random scenery from New Zealand, and this is typical for New Zealand. Very rich, luscious, full of nature. Anyway, I have dear friends there, and I miss them very much. And they miss me. New Zealand has been slammed recently. It's like headline stuff. You might not have known it or seen it, but anyway, in my world, it's very much headline stuff. Their Prime Minister Jacinda resigned. And suddenly, like, oh my God, atmospheric rivers come flooding in and destroying Auckland and just pounding floods, killing people, making people homeless on a scale that modern New Zealanders have never seen before. Anyway, they're still dealing with the aftermath. When is it? A week or two ago. A week before that, there was a massive fire at guess what? A chicken farm for eggs. Now, does that story resonate with any of you? If you are in the United States or Western Europe, you might have heard similar stories about massive explosive fires just spontaneously, somehow, out of nowhere occurring at these chicken ranches, chicken farms, factory farms, and egg farms. Is it a coincidence? Anyway, they had a very big one in New Zealand. The owner of the farm said, it's not a big deal. Only 50,000 chickens died. And we can still manage. We can still provide plenty of eggs to New Zealanders because we've got 3.5 million chickens here laying eggs. So he was like, don't worry, it's going to be okay. We don't really know how the fire started. And by the way, I want you to let you know that we New Zealanders, we really, really adhere to all the, the standards for animal welfare. And then someone else showed a clip of what it's actually like inside that particular factory for the eggs. Put it this way. Let's say you live in an average American suburban home, or you live in a modest apartment or something like that. And maybe there's one or two or three or four, maybe five of you, okay? And, you know, in a modest apartment or a modest American home, 5 people starts to get a little bit of a compression effect, okay? You start to notice it, like people lining up for the bathroom, kitchen, living space, clashes with all sorts of, different activities and behaviors. Now, multiply that up. I was trying to do some rough mathematics today, and as far as I could tell, if you've got, I don't know, I can't remember the math, but let's say you've got a modest 1,000 square foot of living space. And in a 10 by 10 living space, you've got about 15 or 20 chickens. Okay, they're all living shoulder to shoulder. And that's just like in a 10 by 10. So how many 10 by 10s are in 1,000? 10 by 10 times 10 is 100 square feet. Then 10 is 10 again, 1,000 square feet. So that's 10, 100, 1,000. So okay, so roughly, so if you could imagine the equivalent, let's say you're in your apartment, and then instead of having 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 people there, you've got like 500 squashed in. It's actually possible. It would be really disgusting. Let's just say even 100 people. I'm just really dumbing down the math here. Just, can you imagine putting 100 people inside your living space? Would you be happy? Would you think that's humane? Of course, you wouldn't know about it if you were born and raised into that and all you did was lay eggs and then you die and then you turn into meat. But anyway, I've started buying my eggs because I need protein. So I've started buying my eggs from this little farm place where all the chickens each chicken has 10 square feet and it moves every day, and it's outdoor pasture land. All day, every day, 365 days a year. And I pay a steep price for those eggs, but I don't care. I don't know if I can be effective with beef or pork or chicken or turkey or seafood, but I try because I feel sorry for these animals. Salmon, they have to put up with shocking conditions. Same thing with turkeys and pigs, cows. It's just shocking. It's just heartbreaking for me. It's become like the number one issue in my brain, my body, my heart and soul. It's become animal welfare, and I'm taking it, I'm having a real problem dealing with it. And that's my personal problem. And you know how I kind of lecture people about, you got to get yourself together with your own energy management. That's like what I think of as a neutral term. Instead of telling you've got to be your own guru, your own yogi or whatever, I'm just talking about energy management. And you can do that under the umbrella of a neutral term like energy management. Whether you're a Christian or a yogi or a Hindu or a Muslim or whatever, a Uyghur or a Buddhist or an agnostic China person or something, who knows. But anyway, that was very heartbreaking. So back to New Zealand. Chicken ranch blows up, 50,000 dead. Atmospheric river obliterates parts of Auckland. Destroyed forever, never habitable again. Jacinda retires. Then they had Cyclone Gabrielle over the North Island, and lots more people homeless, destroyed, and dead. And the whole of the Hawke's Bay region, which is sort of like the San Joaquin Farming Valley in California, huge amounts of agriculture come out of that region. Totally destroyed for New Zealand. There you go. Like that. And New Zealand's pretty much whole economy is agriculture. Export of meat, export of dairy, things like that. Fruits, vegetables, wine. There you go. Anyway, they have a new prime minister who obviously got dropped in at the deep end. Is Chris Hipkins, and man, he's been. I don't know how he's doing it, but anyway, he's dealing with it. Anyway, well, let me get to the chart. I was rambling a little bit. Sorry about that. So over here, you can see I've got a lot of green today, and that's just sporadic. So let's just take advantage of the sweetness and the sweet vibes for the day, because things will change. Right now, again, we have a type precession here. I'm going to point out a few things that to me are very interesting, and I am going to use that as my theme on which I can blame everything. Okay? So right now, we've got good old Pluto hovering right here at 29 plus degrees. That's the point. That's the critical degree. That is the point of desperation, panic, frustration, absolute blowing of fuses. Anytime a planet reaches the 29 and a half degree mark, it's a hypercritical degree. And because it's the last spurt of energy before things change into a whole new energy vibe. So there we are. Pluto is about 29 degrees. We've got Mercury very close to the moon in Aquarius. We've got Saturn in Aquarius over here. So I didn't even put that in. I should put the... Anyway, the moon is here. Okay, so we got a little mini stellium going on over here, but not quite, because the sun is also on the cusp here. 0 degrees Pisces. It just passed the 29 degree mark. So we've got a cusp event here. We got a cusp event here. And let's see, we've got planets changing signs. So here we are. Today is the, the 18th, okay? So recently we just had a Mercury switch to Aquarius. We just had the Sun switch to Pisces, and we're going to have Venus switch to Venus. Look over here. Venus is going to switch to Aries over here. So we're having another cusp event here. I'm trying to mark these cusps so you can see them on the astrodoodle. As you can tell, I didn't really plan this very well. It's a spontaneous video. Cusp, cusp, cusp. Okay? Now also, of course, a very big deal is that Pluto is at the critical degree point here. So, of course, it moves very slowly. This is all just 1 degree over here and into March. Over to here, all switching over the cusp. Alrighty, over here. So that's very critical stuff. Excuse me. Precious. So, in my own personal world, it's not very common that you see cusp events like this happening simultaneously. It's very normal for cusps all the time. The moon crosses a cusp every 2.5 days. Bam, 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 bam. What I find is that with cusp energy, I get like this. I don't know, like for example, right, okay, so the sun has been in Aquarius, for the last sun season in Aquarius, and now it's moving into Pisces. And the sun is going to be here for about 30 days. It's going to transit across Neptune, and Venus will be gone. And the moon is going to move very quickly. Okay? Now, it's almost like being stuck in traffic or a hallway or some kind of transit place where there's multiple exit on-ramps and off-ramps, but eventually things just merge into two directions, and eventually you have to go this way. You can't keep staying this way. And so by force of nature, you go to this side. And if you are being, let's say, if you feel like you're being forced to go in a certain direction and it feels uncomfortable, it might be that you were previously very much more comfortable with, say, Capricorn energy. Or if you're comfortable with Aquarius energy, it might feel very awkward and uncomfortable switching to Pisces. Switching from Capricorn to Aquarius could feel very uncomfortable for some people. And so on and so on. For Venus, switching from Pisces to Aries would probably feel very uncomfortable. A very kind of unnatural vibe. But it's inevitable. You can't help it. Let's say this is you being comfortable, and then you're being forced to go here, like, oh, I don't want to, what's happening to me? Ouch, 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 ouch. But then you have to keep going, and then that becomes the new direction. Okay? That's it. And then another cusp happens, and like, oh, ow, ow, ow. Now, on the other hand, a new cusp, let's say you are strong with Gemini energy or something like that, and you're coming out of Taurus vibes and it moves into Gemini energy, and you're thinking, oh, thank God, oh, this is great. Now I'm in my stream of power. Yeah. Okay? So it's different for everybody. So I'm not going to classify, I'm not going to tell the whole world that, oh, everyone's suffering from this one, or everyone's suffering from this one or this one. It's unique to each person. But for the planet as a whole right now, there is intense pressure with the Pluto thing here, okay, right here. This is the Pluto cusp, okay, this thing right here. Now this took, 18 years to go from here to here. The moon takes 2.5 days to go from here to here, okay? So there's a vast difference in the way the energy plays out. But right now we're at the point of critical mass, 29 degrees, where it's the critical degree, which happens to be incredibly stressful for, guess what? The USA, which effectively means the whole world, because everybody in the world is directly or indirectly connected to the United States because of United States global hegemony and United States global currency, okay? So what's happening here? We've got this cusp, and this cusp. So the movement from Capricorn energy to Aquarius energy, what's happening over here is that anyone who's deeply, deeply vested in the Capricorn vibe is going to be, it's like they're at a point of absolute desperation in terms of possibly seeing when I have to talk about it in terms of global politics, but very loosely, in terms of seeing their massive dreams of utopian agendas. They call it Agenda 2030, or the new world order and new world government, all that kind of stuff. So over here, this section here, the 10th house, the area that could be talked about as like the global elites who are very much interested in control and power and money, there's a lot of sense of desperation over here because they're aware of the Aquarian vibe where it's all about, oh, we're going to have a whole new world order, and where there's this, what's the difference? Like, who cares whether it's community or communism? We're going to impose our energies anyway. All right? So, but if it doesn't work out, and there are a lot of people very, very, very high up in this world who are starting to realize that their agendas are underappreciated, okay? By, I would say, 99% of the bulk of humanity. Now, those folks at the very top, they don't really care because as far as they're concerned, we're just cattle. Just like I was talking about earlier. Cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, seafood, eggs, all of that. As far as they're concerned, we're just a source of stuff for them to consume. And it's run, as we've talked about many times, it's operated primarily between this debt farm and this slave camp in a very weird, sick marriage. Okay? I'm not going to be really specific here because I don't want to trigger more community guideline stuff. I'm just trying to get people aware of Cusp's energy and how sometimes it can be very hard to handle as we're switching. So as Pluto crosses this cusp over the next year or so, the Aquarian vibe is going to become very, very prominent. And it's at the point where the Aquarian vibe is going to dominate the Capricorn vibe to the point where the Capricorn vibe is going to become obsolete and filed away in the annals of history for another 250 years. And the Aquarius vibe is going to take over. And this vibration here is very different from this vibration here. This is the energy of revolution. It's the energy of hope for humanity. It's the dreams of what could work for the community as opposed to a small handful of elites. So these are highly contradictory, very different energies. People heavily invested over here might come heavily unglued. People who are very in tune with what's coming up ahead might feel a sense of hope and opportunity for humanity to achieve new ways of integration, like global community, global dissolution of these intense pyramids of power, and realigning the power of each individual into the power of each individual, the energy of the sovereign self. So again, that opens up a whole doorway to a lot of political stuff, especially with the United States, because the United States is born with a very important Aquarius theme in its chart. So please plan for the next 21 years to have tremendous upheaval in the United States, and that's going to permeate across the whole world. Okay? So you might have noticed that if you watch the sort of things that I do, there is a polarization because the folks up here are very interested in protecting their, let's say, their turf, their way of doing things. And their way of doing things is this. Okay? Grinding down the people and extracting the pulp, the milk, the meat, the value, the money from you, the people. And they do it, they're very powerful and they're very effective. Love Tribe showed me this video the other day about predictive programming, and it's how the people at the very, very top are very, very aware of how humans work, and they exploit this knowledge and wisdom for their benefit at your expense. So please don't expect anything to change in that regard, because even though Pluto's moving from here to here, it doesn't mean these people are going away. They're just going to be reposition themselves, okay? So at the same time, okay, let's leave that cusp for a minute. At the same time, we've got another cusp event over here because the Aquarian vibes are switching to the Pisces vibes. So for the last 30 days or so, roughly, with the Sun in Aquarius, my feeling is that there's been a huge expansion in the global awareness of global community. If you study and research what I study and research, you can see it. It's the permeation of human beings all over Earth starting to share and integrate with each other on an incredible scale that never existed, 250 years ago when this happened the last time. What I'm talking about is things like social media and these incredible advancements, like the big things with the ChatGPT and OpenAI and Microsoft Bing. Microsoft Bing is now incorporating OpenAI and ChatGPT into their browser for searching. So don't be surprised if Microsoft Bing search bar starts to take over from Google search. Okay? Google does not own ChatGPT. Google is really concerned about that. Okay, just something to think about. So this whole energy of the Aquarian vibe, like we're all on one planet type of vibe, we are one community. Now the problem is that the perverts up here like to switch it around. They want what they're calling a new world government. Okay. And they're packaging it as though it's the perfect thing for the global community. It's not. It's pure evil, and it's for their benefit at your expense. So if you can imagine the whole of this converted into one country with one government. I know, it sounds absurd, but that's what they want to do. Okay? That is the extent of human greed. It's absolutely staggering. Anyway, they're going to have a tough time. They've already done it to a lot of places. And what's happening, you've probably noticed that if you, again, watch the research that I do, you'll start to see that the world is coalescing into these two, two entities. And let me just find some of my notes. I forgot one. I got one this morning. Okay, this was from We On News. There's this thing that's happening. There's the United States. Okay, let me do it this way. There's the United States, Canada, Alaska, Central America, South America. Well, in this part here, okay, plus this part here called Western Europe, plus this part here, Australia, New Zealand, Taiwan, Philippines, Japan, South Korea, they are very oriented towards a certain way of behaving, okay? Some would say, let's just call that the Western group. And then there's a whole bunch of other people, they're sick of it. They don't want that anymore. And they're coalescing around here. These folks here in CHINA and here and here and here. In particular, there are very, very deep, important talks going on between Iran and Russia and China. They are trying to form a unified energy to go against these folks here. So it's going to be these folks here going against these folks here. It's a long-term project, and it's an inevitable thing that it would happen. It's just how it is. And one of them, they called it the Troika of Bullies, or the Triad of Tyranny. I thought that was very interesting, the way they described it. Now, of course, you have to add the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. That's expanding rapidly as more and more countries are realizing we're sick of the US dollar. We want something different. We want to claim our own sovereignty. So people are wanting to claim their own sovereignty of selves. It's an Aquarian battle because the United States has this Aquarian South node here. And it's the default setting, and it's obsolete, it's redundant, it's overindulgence. It's like we cannot go around being the Aquarian savior of the rest of the world and being the benefactor and the charity provider for the rest of the world. Because in fact, what's happening is we use that as a way to, let's say, well, the official word is hegemony, but it's basically the way to manipulate and use the rest of the world for the benefit of America. So it's not surprising that everyone else that's not the United States would start to sort of coalesce like, hey, we're going to take down the bullies over here in America. And then America says, we're going to take down the bullies over here. And it just goes on and on and on. War, 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 war. So we already know these are going to be very warlike periods over here, especially during the time period, roughly here and here, when Uranus here is going to be in Gemini over here. There is going to be war, okay? Real war. Now, let's see. Let's move to the next cusp. So I was talking about the Pisces energy, the global, humanity, the cradle of humanity, what's good for humanity, and we're realizing we are all connected. It's a very rebellious energy. There are so many protests all across the world for everything, like healthcare strikes, education strikes, freedom strikes, healthcare again strikes, financial strikes, political striking and protesting, and because people are sick of the last 18-year journey where we were basically treated as cattle by a handful of elites. There is a certain percentage of humanity that is realizing, wait a minute, we've been living as cattle just like those chickens, those cows, those pigs, those turkeys, those fish, those seafood. Well, we've been farmed. We've been living on a debt farm. Hey, we've been living on a slave camp that works with the debt farm. We've been living on the debt farm that depends on the slave camp. Wait a minute, there's something wrong here. This is inhumane. Okay? Humans being inhumane towards other humans. It's no different from the owner-manager of that egg factory basically saying, oh, it's not a problem, we'll just get more chickens and we'll still have plenty of eggs for New Zealand, with absolutely zero concern for the chickens themselves. Anyway, so as the sun moves into Pisces, there might be these vibes of idealism about how much love has been lost, sacrificed, stolen, and how much, I would say, like mold, mildew, rot, sickness, disease, lies, deception, betrayal has permeated the whole of humanity, okay, in this 30-day transit here. The amount of disease and sickness is now fully apparent all over the world, and it's becoming very difficult to say, oh, it's just nature. It's becoming very commonplace now, and I'm not going to use the exact words because I'll probably get in trouble, but I've got a whole bunch of links that have been sent to me, some of them from Path Traveler, Love Triber, and a few others, and it's all the stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about on my YouTube channel. But if you've got an imagination, then you might be able to guess at what I'm talking about. It's the whole concept that this is not an accident. All the very deep, sick, perverted, evil things that are happening on Earth right now, they're not just accidents. Some of the things with nature, now please understand, with Uranus and Taurus, 15 degrees here, okay, a lot of the stuff to do with so-called weather and climate, that's to be expected. We predicted this for years, okay? Tremendous shock, random upheaval in the global weather patterns, okay? Of all kinds. All the classic stuff. Volcanoes, earthquakes, fires, hurricanes, what else did I say? Flooding, drought, wind, ice, catastrophic events, okay? And also very, very bizarre events. Like, we just had, did you hear the story about the guy up here in, what was it, Netherlands, Norway or someone? He predicted very, very accurately that there would be a major earthquake over here in Turkey and Syria, roughly at the time described. The whole earthquake community laughed at him, and he said, no, we're going to get at least a 7.0 in around the Turkey fault lines, because they are the most fragile fault lines on Earth right now, besides New Zealand. So the big ones happened here. That's already global headlines. And the next global headlines, they're much smaller headlines, but there's for the earthquake that just happened over here near Wellington, okay? So New Zealand, okay? I should have said that earlier. The chickens, the flooding, the cyclone, the earthquake, Jacinda gone. New Zealand is in a state of absolute upheaval. I wouldn't be surprised if I knew the astrology of New Zealand. I could pinpoint things exactly. Anyway, let's keep moving. Venus, the planet of money, love, relationships, harmony, beauty, is moving out of... Actually, let me finish a little bit more about Pisces energy over here. Neptune is still here, and it's not going to be gone for quite a while. So, as you know, we've been dealing with a lot of subject to do with sickness, imprisonment, death, grotesque, disgusting abuse, issues of abuse of humans against humans. And those stories have turned into global headlines, again, if you do the research that I do. It's just that humans are very, very good at abusing other human beings. They just can't help themselves. So they do it. And they do it, the abusers do it for their advantage. The tyrants, they just can't help themselves. That's how they operate. Psychopaths, sociopaths. So everybody knows the big one. It's the big, nasty bug numbered as number 19. And we've been dealing with that storyline for a while. And it's going to continue for a while because those folks over here are trying to keep that storyline going as a way to control we the people. And so on and so on. It's all very entangled. I'm not going to go into any kind of detail. But with the Piscean energy over here, again, depends on who you are, how you are, where you are, and why you are the way you are. The sun's going to move across here, and it's going to highlight that portion of your chart, wherever that lies in your chart. You know? So, some of the things that can happen during a Pisces transit is you might suffer. Suffer what? I don't know. Suffer finances, suffer health, suffer depression, suffer losses, suffer awareness. You might become shockingly aware of things that terrify you, and that becomes a suffering. You might suffer for humanity as you start to realize, my God, humanity is suffering. You might feel the suffering of animals. You might feel, you might be very sensitive and start absorbing the pain and suffering of the world, the planet itself. Okay? Yes, Path Traveler also brings up the subject of mental illness. Correct, okay? George Orwell, 2020. Hello, everyone. My dog died earlier in his sleep. Oh, no. Okay, I hope it was a peaceful passing. Oh. My dog died earlier in his... Oh. God, do you remember some of us a couple weeks ago when Tina was driving across country and she almost lost her dogs in the big snowstorm? And then a few days later, her older dog, the big German Shepherd, died. And she almost lost one of her other friend's dogs as well. Anyway, Piscean energy can sometimes be very hard to handle because on the positive side, it's very, very beautiful. It's like the connection to heaven. It's the connection to unlimited universal love. It's our connection with divinity and divine. It's the connection where there really is no veil between this life, this world, and the next world. It's all one thing. But of course, in a three-dimensional world that we have right now, it's sometimes very hard to handle the idea that there's a whole other sphere of existence outside of our three-dimensional existence. We are rampaging around here in fear and violence and warfare, animal versus animal, human versus human. Oh, he was 16. Yes, it was peaceful. Oh, good. Okay, thank God. Okay. We were going to put him down. That's very considerate. But he was ready, so he went away. Okay, that's beautiful. Oh, you know what? Let me share a little story while I'm here talking about the animals. So, you know, hello, Mr. George Orwell, 2021. I'm over here in Las Vegas, and in my particular room, there are 3 little ghosts of 3 animals. The animals, they must have lived here on this property sometime during the last 40 years. I'm guessing quite a while ago. And the thing I know is because I've seen these little ghosts myself. Sometimes I see ghosts. I know it sounds like I'm a crackpot, but sometimes I see ghosts. And I sometimes have done mediumship for people, but I don't really do it professionally or anything. Anyway, I noticed that one of the cats here started doing this, was doing this a lot. Because, chases around the room. And I realized, oh my God, I saw it. It's a ghost. And the ghost was teasing the cat. And the cat wanted to play with the ghost. And then I realized, oh, it's actually a small dog. It's a little dog. It's a young dog. It's actually a very young pit bull. Okay. Anyway, the dog and the cat were playing. And then, I guess a few weeks later, I started to notice another one. And this was another dog, but it was more frantic. And it wanted to play, like be mischievous. It wanted to play with Boo Boo the cat. And I realized, oh, there's another dog here too, another ghost dog. And this dog was a little Chihuahua ghost. I think it was older and I think it was female. And then that went on for a while, and I'm sort of used to it. Now, this doesn't go on all day, every day. It's just random, okay? And I don't bother to look anymore. I'm not going to be a ghost hunter or anything like that. And then there I noticed a third ghost. I thought, what is this? This is completely different. I could sense, this type of movement and this sort of... And I think it's the ghost of a bird. Now, I'm not sure if it was a pet bird that used to live here, or if it was a wild bird like a pigeon or something else that took up residence here at some point in its life, and it liked this particular home, So anyway, there's 3 little ghosts here. So George Orwell, rest assured that your canine buddy is still around, and if you want to, you can probably engage. Let them have some time to transition and get used to things. Sometimes they don't want to stay. Sometimes they just want to go and scamper around in the great beyond. But sometimes they love to be very, very close to their previous human. I have a little fish that lives here. Every now and again we check in. She loves me and I love her. And she lived her life and passed away, and it was very sad and tragic. But now and again she sends loving messages, okay? Your name's actually Andrea. Okay. Hello, Andrea. Welcome. So, yeah, the Neptune Pisces energy can be sometimes very hard to pin down or understand. It's commonly associated with astrology, like if you focus on the shadow side of it, like drug addiction, alcoholism, abuse, sexual abuse, imprisonment for all these dark, shadowy things, like people who kill family members, psychopaths who enjoy murder, people who are addicted to prescription drugs, evil doctors who prescribe unnecessary prescriptions, evil corporations that create diseases in order to provide a medication, those kinds of things. I associate all that kind of sick energy with the tragic side of Neptune. The beautiful side is a whole other thing, okay? So let's move on. I've got more stuff here. So Venus has been in Pisces for a while. My feeling is that the Venus, with its sweet, soft energy, has allowed people to absorb and understand the true stories and the true understanding of all the sickness that's going on out there, and how it is profoundly linked with money, because money is like the tool of power That is what these folks, the folks in the pyramid of power at the top of the pyramid, that's what they lust after. All they care about is power, money, and control. It's Pluto energy to the extreme, okay? I'm not saying Capricorns are bad people. I'm not saying Pluto is bad. All I'm saying is that if you can't handle the energy, if you don't have energy management to take care of Pluto in Capricorn, it will manifest exactly the way we see it happening today with a bunch of global elites trying to impose their evil agenda on the rest of humanity. Okay? So let's say Venus moves into Aries. It could be kind of a boisterous energy where when Venus eventually conjoins here with Jupiter, my feeling is that it's almost like people could become, let's say, overly optimistic in terms of love and relationships and finances. They might overdo it. They might over-party. They might overextend themselves with money. Like, screw it. Let's go over here and take a vacation anyway. We don't have the money, but we'll stick it on a credit card. Not realizing that you're just making your life worse down the road. Okay? So then Venus is going to be here for maybe a month or so, back and forth. Because we have a lot of planets moving forward for months at a time right now. But these are the ones that I'm most concerned about here. The Capricorn Aquarius, and the Aquarius Pisces vibe. Sun will eventually, in 30 days, the Sun will have crossed the cusp over here. So we will have Jupiter and the Sun. That's a very powerful alignment. So, in terms of handling this, how do we deal with this at the individual level? So what I would point out specifically is if you have any planets in your personal astrology that are around the 29 degree mark Capricorn, 1 degree mark Aquarius, you're under a lot of pressure there. If you've got a lot of energy fields in the very late Aquarius or early Pisces, you're going to feel it there. Same thing over here, okay? Those are the real pressure points. Now, I'm just going to do a little overlay quickly here. Let's put that as the Capricorn vibe up here. That's the Aquarius vibe up here, okay? The real pressure points, I would say, if you're is on this axis here and here, okay? So anyone with heavy duty Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, Aries vibes would be feeling this indirectly, okay? A lot of pressure on the cardinal signs. Over here, because there's a stellium in this section here, in the Aquarius vibes, of course the Aquarian people are going to feel a lot of, I would say, let's say, agitation or overstimulation right now. Serious overstimulation, almost to like your fuses are breaking for the Aquarian vibes. But also for the Leo vibes over here, okay? They might notice things externally, like in the relationship dynamics, the Aquarius Leo vibe, okay? There's nothing in Leo right now specifically with planets, but Leo people might feel it because the Aquarius vibe is the transiting opposition to Leo. So a lot of Leos might feel as though they're under a lot of pressure, like facing huge hurdles and brick walls in the world of relationship. Or if they are super high frequency, they might actually be able to enjoy this. The other vibe, of course, hard squaring with that would be the Scorpio Taurus axis over here. And the way I look at that would be, well, if you're an individual with Scorpio, Leo, Taurus, you might be feeling the stress from this stellium here. How that stress works for you, I don't know, but it would be stress. This particular axis here, I'm just going to highlight it just for fun. This is the global financial system under a lot of stress here. Okay, we've already talked about that. Anyway, let's move on. Where's all my stuff? So, we've got a Pisces new moon coming up in a couple of days, okay? So you might feel things go very kind of mellow for a while as the moon fades from its last 28-day cycle. And then over the period of next week, you will feel the rising of the moon in Pisces and the sun in Pisces, because the moon is going to move from here to here. And that's where we're going to get, right here is when we're going to get at this timing point over here, it'll be about, I don't know how many degrees, almost, gosh, let's see, what's the date? The new moon, 0 degrees. Wow, well, it's going to be, almost at the 0 degree mark. So it's going to be right here on the cusp, okay? So you might want to start planning for the whole of the Pisces season here, roughly. We're going to have the full moon in Virgo here in a couple of weeks. And then it's going to transit to Aries. So over the next 4 weeks, please allow for classic Pisces themes to start to become more prominent in your life, in your world, wherever this lies in your chart, okay? Wherever this lies, okay? It could be anywhere in your chart, but you will feel it, okay? Now, some people might not have any Pisces vibes anywhere in their chart, so you might not feel it too much. But if you have a heavy Pisces influence, I know some people here do, you might want to take into account that it's going to bring certain things to the surface. If you've been with this channel for a long time, you can probably have several keywords. It might be something to do with health, sickness. It might be something to do with disease or leftovers or things in your life that have been really buried and put aside because they're so hard to deal with, so hard to understand, that they were shoved into the compost heap of life or into the dumpster of the farthest corners of your mental backyard, so that hopefully you don't ever have to deal with them. But they might start to come to the surface and fester and get all smelly, and you don't have an option except to deal with it. It's just like having an overflowing garbage can or a blocked up sewer, okay? So you've got to deal with it, okay? Just heads up, okay? Trying to help you here, folks, okay? So I'm pretending I'm like a weatherman. So this is February, okay? I marked off the little bits of hot spots here. That's the new moon coming, but look at March. Oh my God. I don't know how we're going to do this. I've been looking at this. I'm thinking, how on earth am I going to convey this energy? How am I going to describe this? This might look like gobbledygook to you, but this is meaningful stuff for me. And I have to live through this just like you do. Okay? So I'm going to do my best to navigate through this. And if I can learn anything, salvage anything, translate anything, and get it out to you, I will do my best. Okay? We're going to do, let's have a look. Hold on. I think that's really all I wanted to do with the astrology and stuff. Okay, just give me a second. Anyway, it's all different for everybody. I know there's thousands of astrology channels now all over YouTube, and some of them do spectacular stuff, and some of them I know even dabble in some of the awkward subjects that I sometimes talk about. But for whatever reason, inside the massive opaque algorithm of Mr. Alphabet, who owns it all, they've put me over here as opposed to there. And so I don't really know what to do. I'm just going to keep doing this. I have to really, really watch my mouth for the next 3 months. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Like the things that I study, the things that I like to watch, that I need to do to educate myself so that I do not become a victim. I don't want to be a victim of all these horrible things that are going on. I study. And I know for a fact, okay, Path Traveler and Love Triber, they love to dig. Find out all the creepy, horrible stuff going on behind the scenes. And of course, on the mainstream, you can't do that. Mainstream media, MSM, you can't do that. That's, ABC. In America, that's ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNBC, the major newspapers, and all of that stuff. Hollywood. They all coalesce around what they call the ESG, environmental social governance protocols. There's also the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion protocols. Ever heard of that? Well, they're out there. They're all over the country. They have infiltrated their way into all the colleges and universities and major corporations. So it doesn't really matter anymore whether you are highly qualified for a certain job that might have a really good income. If you don't meet the certain criteria for ESG or DEI, then you're not going to get the job. They're going to give the job to someone else who fits the DEI, ESG thing, even if they have a super low IQ and no qualifications. So there's nothing to do with merit anymore. Merit doesn't count. It's all corruption and blech. Sick BS. So anyway, I get lots of links. And if some of them popped up, I mean, there's so much stuff that goes on outside the mainstream media. It's just like, it's indescribable. In my world, it all makes sense because all the stuff that I see in my own research as well, it all makes sense to me because what's the word? It's a reflection of what the planets tell me. So in my world, the planets can be very predictive in some ways, like with global astrology and global events. Highly predictive, okay? And I've enjoyed that for years. And I've shared it, but of course I've shared it at my expense, extreme losses over here. Extreme losses to my channel and my so-called integrity or my reputation or my ability to communicate at all. Some of you know I had a brief, spectacular history with TikTok, and they completely destroyed me as well. I have a little thing on Twitter, I have a little thing on Rumble, and I had my thing here on YouTube, and I really don't know what I'm doing with myself right now. I am so... because of my own particular issues with the planets right now. I am trying to live by example, like I said earlier, to be a glowing example of good, healthy energy management. And I have to admit, I'm struggling. So there you go. There was a time where I had a formula, and I still do have a formula. But for me to activate that formula to, let's say, do the clearing energies, it's much harder for me to do now because I would say I have a lot more toxins, psycho-spiritual toxins that I have allowed to attach to me. And that's my responsibility. My job is energy management how do I clear that? I know what to do. I know how to do it, but I've got so much like goop in the dumpster, I'm trying to describe it, that I don't even know where to start. I can do a few things and it will help. And then you start to dig and you realize, oh my God, it's so much worse than I could have ever imagined. So I'm just trying to deal with it. Okay? Anyway, on just a bunch of the links today, I was just in the last few days, all the stuff that came out of New Zealand was very heartbreaking for me. You've all heard the story about the big round blobs in the sky that got shot down. You've all heard the big story about the choo-choo trains over in eastern Ohio, and all the 1,000 train crashes just in the last year. Over the last year. I mean, it's none of this is a coincidence, okay? And where can you talk about this safely and openly? Well, it turns out that Path Traveler and Love Triber have a few sources, and I'm not familiar with them much, but there are alternative places. I think one of them is called Reddit, and some of them are on these Twitter places where they've got their whole audience. They're not expecting to run a YouTube channel. It's just that they like to have open conversations about the things that I'm not allowed to talk about on this channel. I'm not sure if I'm going to ever spend much time or energy going into these sources because I can barely cope with my personal life as it is, okay? So we do what we can. I'm going to wrap it up right now. Basically, I just wanted to get that stuff out there tonight about the charts and about the cusps, okay, with the planets, okay? The big cusp is Pluto. The big cusp is Saturn, okay? Those are going to be the two big energy changes this year. There's going to be Jupiter. Actually, I can't go on anymore about it. March is going to be a whole other story. We just got through February. We've got a little bit to go. Then we're going to have to start dealing with the astrology of March, okay? So, George Orwell, Andrea. I read through some of these conversations and between these folks who are on the sort of a wavelength like I am, because I'm a sort of a patriot type of person, and I like America, and I like the wholesome things about America, and I like things like the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. Those are things that get people like me into trouble. But I do like them, and I cherish them very, very deeply. But I noticed on some of the conversations that there are some people in my world with my type of, let's say, personal preferences who have given up hope. They've already said, it's all over. We can't stop the evil agenda. It's done. It doesn't matter about the First Amendment anymore. It doesn't matter about the Second Amendment anymore. We're done. If the evil ones come after us, even if we're 100,000 strong army and we're well armed, we're still done. I don't feel that at all. I just want to let you know, I don't feel that at all. Okay. George Orwell. I have a Twitter. I had a very active TikTok. My TikTok grew very quickly and big, and I had lots and lots of feedback and lots of people who really liked what I was talking about and all the stuff that would get me shut down here. But anyway, TikTok went against it because guess why? TikTok is basically owned and operated by the CHINA, leadership. Okay? And apparently I pissed them off. So I don't have that anymore. I don't like Facebook. I've tried Instagram. I don't like it. I don't like any of them. I'm learning Twitter. I love my YouTube, but they don't like me. I've got my Rumble. But again, it's time and energy. I'm finding it incredibly hard to manage my time and my energy in such a way that I can contribute and share what I really want to contribute and share. The safest place for a video version like this is my Rumble channel. But I don't get a lot of content there right now. But thank you for asking, Andrea. Anyway, tomorrow is Sunday. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow night. There's a lot of activity here right now, and I might not make it. We'll have to see. But tomorrow night we'll be doing a few tarot readings. These would be live tarot readings by donation. Usually I can fit 2 or 3, maybe 4 readings in an evening. And most people who donate for these readings put in like $10, $20 or something like that. And I use my custom situational spread. And it works very well. I have my own custom spreads. After thousands of readings, I have designed my own spreads, which are purely by me, for me, to work for me, so I can best help my clients down the road. If anybody needs anything, let me show you something. I seem to have lost my... Where's my... Hold on, I wanted to show you something. Anyway, if you need anything, just go to terralumination.com. Okay, you can reach me there. You can book a reading. I will be putting my prices up in the next few days, few weeks, okay? It's all going to go up. Okay, I give clients readings, and most of them are very happy with my work, and my prices are beyond hyper competitive. They're cheap for what we do here. On the other hand, it's work. So I'm gonna have to raise the prices because my cost of living has just gone whoosh. It's not my fault. I'm just gonna pass the problem on to the consumer. Anyway, yeah. So terralumination.com if you need to reach out. Donations gladly accepted. Tomorrow night, Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the 19th of February. If I do a show, it'll be tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to check out right now.